Okay, with the great zeal and energy we gained from the day one, we are starting the day two conference. And for the day, as yesterday informed, we are continuing with two important panels. The second panel of people agility and the process agility. The people agility of this day is very unique. Both of the papers are related to academic related research with Agile. And this panel is headed by Professor Vanadi ma'am. She is the chairman of the chairperson of this panel. To say a few words about Professor Vanati ma'am, she is a professor and HOD of SRM Valiamma Engineering College, Kottayam, and she holds a PG from Anna University and PhD from Anna University again. And she has more than 20 years of experience in teaching. And she has published around 50 papers in reputed journals and is an recognized PhD supervisor for Anna University. And she is currently supervising 6 PhD candidates and with 1 MS research candidate. And she has also contributed more for the society that she has obtained fund from DST in NIMAT for 4 continuous years for entrepreneur development program to students and 2 lakh for her women entrepreneur development program. And that's pretty no we are glad to have Vanati ma'am as our chairperson. We are really thankful in spite of all her busy schedule. She agreed to be our one of the chairperson and she has reviewed all these papers and approved. And heartfelt thanks to Vanati ma'am. And discussant of this people agility panel is again an industry leader, Anbu Joseph. Uh, Anbu Joseph is an ICC is also an agile coach, scrum master, and an executive coach aggregated from ICF. And is having more than 17 years of experience in software development and product management. Have worked with multiple organizations in different domains in various roles, and right from the programmer of being agile coach for more than 7 years now. Have been practicing agile methodologies to deliver products and projects and is in exploration empowering people and organization to create lasting results for success. And being an executive coach accredited from ICF is now into organization while executive leadership coaching. All the best for his venture, Anbu Joseph. And he will be the discussant for this panel. And I'm just giving handovering to Anbu Joseph to proceed this panel.
Yeah, thank you, Padma, for this introduction. Also, I want to thank Vanadi Madam for whenever we asked her to lend her time, she immediately lent her time and she accepted and immediately she reviewed and then without delay she gave all the comments for our researchers to continue the research and make the changes. So with that, right? So with that, I'm going into the topic of today, people agility part 2, right? So yesterday we had one session of people agility, and today we are having the second part of people agility. So in which, it's, as Padma said, these two are very interesting paper related to academics. How agile can be implemented as part of academics. So though these two papers are totally different, right? One deals with agility in terms of training inside a corporate or how the training industry is happening. The another is with the schools. So this is going to be really very interesting. So first we are going to see about a new thing called psychoagilical behavior theory based agile squads in middle school. So this is being researched by Sreeanand and Sunitha. So to give a brief introduction about Sreeanand and Sunitha, Sreeanand holds MCA degree and has a span of 22 plus years of experience in the IT industry across different domains, telecom, automobile, and service industry. He is a certified Agile coach from ICP and also an Agile Kanban trainer. So he currently works as a technical project manager in Chennai and has been handling Agile deployment pan India in his organization. So he is also a freelance psychological counselor who specializes in marital and adolescent counseling and therapy. So he completed his B1 level in German. So apart from learning languages as a hobby, he is also a marathon runner. Travel is another aspect of his interest. All right. Okay. So another, sorry, I did share it, right? Okay. I'll share it for people to see. Merit. Okay. So next is about Sunitha. So Sunitha Shenoy holds a master degree in psychology and has a 20 plus years of experience across banking, in insurance and IT industry. She is also an ICP certified agile coach. She is currently working as a technical project manager in Chennai. She is also a language enthusiast and holds a certificate proficiency in Spanish and also completed a B1 level in German. She is passionate about therapy and counseling, apart from being a marathon runner. So with this expertise of these researchers, we are going to see the paper on psychoagilical behavioral theory based agile squads in middle schools. Over to you, Anand and Sunitha.
Thank you, Anbu.
Thank you,
Let me
Anbu.
share the screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, Sunitha.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present here. The topic of our paper is behavioral theory based agile squads in middle school. So everyone will have a question as to why this research. So one day when we were at the cafeteria discussing about our kids over a coffee, one of our colleagues got a call where her son was literally crying on the phone, saying he had some doubts and he wanted her to help. When our colleague told him to ask his friends, the reply shocked us. He said, "We don't share notes because the other person might get more marks than me." So the moment we heard that, we thought that is, what is going on? So there's something which we need to do for this. So that was the moment when the seed was sown for this research paper. So if I may quote from Shane's opening note, Agile needs people. And also I would like to take some, indication from the people agility, which was presented yesterday, where Shruti did explain about biases being kind and humble in her presentation. So which is a guide, which is guiding us back to get us back to basics. So our ex-president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam said, if you want to put an end to corruption, catch them young and teach them the values. Current population will soon leave, and the current bunch of youngsters with such value system will form a strong India. Catching them young and changing the behavior is one main focus of the paper. So if we peek into the education system of a country, in ancient times, the education system was in Gurukul, where the students used to go and reside at the Guru's residence, learn all that they could from the teacher. But after the colonial era, schools were set up and confined system of subjects were brought into education. So in the present time, the education system has become more like exams, exams and only exams, where the children get into the rat race for marks. A national survey which was conducted a few years back reveals that more than 80% of school principals in India blame rote learning as the reason for poor standards. Of these, nearly 70% of them felt that the curriculum followed in India today did not give sufficient scope for creative thinking or basic soft skills. I would like to quote Dr. Kalam again here. He said, Indian education framework needs to change completely. So the aim of this research was to address the soft skill aspect of the educational system, and we took our baby step towards addressing the softer aspect of collaboration and co-creation in this research paper. So if we move on asking the question of why Agile? Agile framework is one unique kind where the principles and practices focuses on mutual respect, trust, transparency, and co-create. And these are the fundamentals of human race. And to bring back the value system that was drifting away in the current education system, to co-creation, competing with self rather than competing with each other. No other framework would have been more apt. So we picked up a handful of principles out of the 12 principles and have tried to incorporate it in our paper. So as you can see, it's marked with the green dots in the slide. And they are welcome change, work together, trust and support, face-to-face conversation, though we could not do it in person. Thanks to technology, we could approach it through online platform, sustainable development, continuous attention, self-organizing team, and reflect and adjust. So now to address the question of why psychology, I will hand it over to my co-author, Sreeanand.
Thank you very much, Sunitha. Why psychology? Children are like blank CD, and they acquire the behavior from the date of the conception. And they slowly start acquiring this behavior from the environment. And naturally, that has an impact in the psyche, which slowly develops a belief system about the self and the environment. This belief system could bring the best or worst in an individual. And this research focuses on the positive psychology of the students, what they have acquired from the childhood. So when we started with this research, we started identifying many models, many of the psychological models, like the big 5 factors, MBTI, the trait theory, and my all-time favorite, the personality adaptation. It is difficult to mold the clay when it dries, as the adage goes. All of the above were focusing on the behavioral aspects of the adults, and personality adaptation model was the only one which was focusing on formation of behavior right from the childhood. And personality adaptation is based upon ego states in transaction analysis. Now let's first see what is an ego state is all about. So what is an ego state? Eric Berne, the father of transaction analysis, states ego state as a consistent pattern of feeling and experience directly related to a corresponding consistent pattern of behavior. So there are 3 ego states that you do have. So if you see to the left of the screen, so the parent ego state, the adult ego state, and the child ego state. So the parent ego state is what we copy it from our parents directly without any logic. So for this, I can quote a small story. So there was a husband, wife, and wife, whenever she cooks fish, she cuts the head and cooks the body part alone in a vessel. And the husband was surprised on seeing this. So he asked her, "What did you do that?" And the answer was very simple. She said that, "I don't know. Right from the day I knew, my mother used to cook like this." And then after some time, when he got a chance to meet the mother-in-law, he was asking the same question out of curiosity. It was like he was going crazy with that. So when he was asking, it was the same response from her as well. "I don't know. It was my mother who used to cook that way." And this guy was getting even more crazier. And when he got a chance to meet the grandma, he asked the same question. The grandma's answer was very simple. "That day when I cooked fish, I didn't have a bigger vessel, so I just had to cut the head and cook it separately and then cook the body separately." So that's how it happened. So now if you see, the mother and the daughter were using the replica of what the grandmother did. So there was no logic behind that. The grandmother had a logic why she did that. So what the grandmother did becomes the adult ego state, and the rest of the 2 comes from the parental ego state. So the parental ego state really helps us to establish the rules, setting boundaries, giving directions. They get into how do I say that? The judgmental part. They say that North India is not safe. Germans are technically strong. So they get into all such protocols or the judgments that they come from. And the child ego state is more about how we have been responding to the environment when we were children, and we replicate that over the years, over the period of time. And the adult ego state it's all about you review the situation objectively and respond in a non-prejudicial manner. So a person in adult state takes the inputs from the current scenario, makes a logical decision, and then responds to the environment. So the other aspect of the ego states is the functional model that we do have to the right side. So from a parental ego state, the parent could be a nurturing parent or a critical parent. Of course, we have seen both of such scenarios in our lives. So when I say it as parental ego state, it doesn't mean our biological parent alone. It could be any parental figure. It could be the teachers, it could be the mentors, it could be the coaches, it could be the uncle, on anyone who is actually impacting our lives. And when it comes to the child ego state, so there are three states that you do have. So one is the adapted child, so which we typically listen to the parents or parental commands. Of course, that really sometimes help us during our marital life as well. So, and then the rebellious child, negating all the commands that's coming from the parents, and then the free child. The free child is the one which is pretty spontaneous and tries to enjoy or tries to respond the way at that moment, whatever it decides, it does it. So this is the basics of the ego states, and based upon the ego states, how the personalities are formed. In the forthcoming slides, we'll look into that. Thank you, Sunitha. So personality adaptation term is originated by Paul Ware, MD, and elaborated by Van Jones. So refers one of 6 basic adaptations individuals make in childhood in terms of how best survive and meet the expectations in one's family of origin. So there are 2 types of adaptations. One is the surviving adaptations, which we see here in the slide, and the following slide would be the performing one. So what is surviving adaptation? So surviving adaptations are responses to the first psychological issues that someone will have during the oral stages that Erik Erikson identified as the basic trust versus mistrust. So these are the adaptations or the child's responses as how best to take care of themselves when trust breaks down, when children can no longer trust the environment to meet their needs. So there are 3 types of adaptations: creative daydreamer, brilliant skeptic, and the charming manipulator. So first, let's go with the brilliant skeptic. And this is predominantly with respect to how the parenting has an impact on them. So the first we start with the just a moment. The creative daydreamer. So when the parenting is underdone, the parents are tentative in how they interact with the child. The child sends the tentativeness and is silent to make many demands to the parents. Positively, they become supportive of them, the parents, in the hope that the parents feel more secure and in turns take care of the child. So negatively, it withdraws stating, I won't need you and I will take care of things by myself. So here we take the positive aspects of the child when we do the matrix at some later point of time. And next comes the brilliant skeptic. When the parent is inconsistent, the parents interact with the child in an unpredictable manner. So the parents used to dump their emotions on the kids, irrespective of whether it's positive or negative. Sometimes they are supporting and loving, and sometimes angry and futile. So the behavior of the child, once which got a positive response, might not get the same response every other time. So it might vary from situation to situation. So as a result, the child feels uneasy and continually cautious. The child's response is to learn to be very careful in an attempt to maximize the possibility of getting a positive response from the parent. It tries to plan for all possible outcomes like a FMEA. So of course, most of us knew FMEA. FMEA is a method in which we look out for all the possible options something could fail, and we have the mitigation plan or the responses to that. So such a way, a brilliant skeptic would respond. And the third in the surviving comes the charming manipulator. So when the parenting is overdone, the parents interact with the child in an anticipatory manner. So often, even without the child ask for, they keep on doing something, getting them whatever they want, buying them food. So it is like they overdo the parenting. So they do this for the child even before the child is having a need. So the child learns to expect constant stimulation and without expectation anything from the parent. So this pattern breaks down when the parents are tired and not present for the kid. Of course, they can be pretty consistent when they are doing this. At this point, the child senses abandonment. So positively, if the child learns to promote, trying to get what it wants, irrespective of whether the parent is available or not, it tries to take all the uh, uh, all the data points from the environment to see how it could get what it wants. On a negative aspect, yeah, that's very challenging. It starts to use the little professor. Little professor, by the term, what I mean is that sometimes the child tries to think effectively from whatever information it has got, to manipulate itself to justify the way to approach to meet its needs. So the child believes its approach to be the righteous way. And now, next slide, we'll go to the performing adaptations. Thank you. Okay. Performing adaptations are more of a response to parental emphasis on appropriate behavior and expectations regarding the performance both in family and outside the environment. It's more of a conditioning of the child. We are from forward cast. We have to score 498 out of 500. You should get a seat in Anna University, and then you have to go for the campus interview. You have to get into TCS, CTS, Infosys, whatever it is, and then you have to get married. You have to buy a plot near Tambaram. So these kind of instructions that always which comes from the parents is all about the performing adaptation. So there are three performing adaptations: playful resistor, responsible workaholic, and enthusiastic overreactor. So let's start with the playful resistor. The parents often, from the position, they say that it's my way or the highway, and most likely the child response is no way. So the result is a power struggle in which no one wins. The child concludes we have to struggle to survive. So most of the attention the child receives is through the conflict with the parents. This playful resistor put a lot of energy in struggling. So they're critical of the behavior from the parents and fight back from the child. So positive side of this is that we're talking about the nurturing parent when we talk about the ego states. So the nurturing parent playfully explains how important, why it has to be done in a particular way, and leads by example. So the child moves from the rebellious state to the adapted child, and it responds really well. So normally, if you see, the father would be the controlling parent or the critical parent, and the mother would be the nurturing parent. Of course, sometimes the role changes. Okay. In this case, you could always see that the adaptation would be in a particular way with the father and the particular way with the mother. So the mother would play the nurturing role, and normally you could see that the child responsible to the mother. So these are the basic reasons why the child behaves in a particular way to a particular parent or a particular person in a particular scenario. Next comes the responsible workaholic. So these are the 498 out of 500 guys. The responsible workaholics are obsessive compulsive. So major emphasis was more on doing it right than doing it itself. So if you see right from day one, these children don't enjoy their education. So they are mentally prepared for that 498 out of 500. I'm just giving an example. Okay, you could relate it to the individual cases as well. With this adaptation, there was often an emphasis on perfection. So individuals who developed these adaptations were supposed to be the good boys and good girls. You should be like that guy. You should be like that Bragadish or Sevaram in the next street. This guy wakes up in the morning by 3:30 and he studies for 3 hours and then goes to school, comes back. He spends at least 8 hours. He got second rank in CA, All India. So those are the guys who would be this typical responsible workaholics. So they were praised for being the model child. So they learned to equate worth and value with having mother and father's approval. As a result, they put a lot of energy into being model citizens and doing well. Next comes the enthusiastic overreactor or histrionic. So the male with these adaptations are supposed to be the mother's confidant and companion, and while females were supposed to be daughter's little princess. So both of them get most of the strokes as children for being cute, delightful, and loving. But keeping others happy is a behavior that they can engage in without a great deal of thought and still get the maximum number of strokes from others. So typically, the scenarios where it's a single mom, single parent, a mom or the dad, or the disjoint families. So we could see that the son would be the confidant for the mom, and then the daughter for the father. So typically, an example in which we can relate to enthusiastic overreactor. So they learn to be emotionally attentive to others. In that process, they spend a lot of energy pleasing others. So when they're appreciated for the being and motivated for the doing, they become excellent performers. So these would typically form the doers. On the next slide, we'll go ahead with the approach. Thank you. So the approach what we used for this paper is outlined here. The first and foremost step, once we decided to work on this paper, was to finalize on the psychological model as we discussed earlier, which we would weave into Agile, which resulted in the matrix to help us create the squads. Agile and personal adaptations are two aspects which, when synergized, can give the best results. On one hand, Agile focuses on the dynamic aspects of a system, at the same time focuses on the results. It focuses more towards the mindset behavioral change, and an ideal concept, when transformed into different aspects of life, can bring in phenomenal results. And this paradigm shift is what is needed for the art, for the educational system to be revamped into a different arena. So that's how we got into Agile and personal adaptation, how they were synergized together. And then we'll talk about the matrix. So the matrix outlined here has 6 personality adaptations, which can be mapped as enablers or doers. So based on the responses to Joint's personality adaptation questionnaire that we used, and in-depth study on the characteristics of each of this personality adaptation, they were categorized into enablers and doers. So this split is purely based on the characteristics of the personality adaptation and not limiting the students as enablers or doers, as to some point in time. The enablers would need to be the doers, and doers at some stage can also be the enablers. So here, by enablers and doers who can enable the system to do much better, typically the managers, the scrum masters, or anyone who can play the role. And doers would be the typical team who actually gets into action, would be more operational that we talk about. So in this scenario, we are talking about enablers and doers, more like enablers are the students who do well and also helping the other students to do well. And the doers would be like who are following it and then doing well. So we are trying to map the concept of enablers and doers from Agile to the educational system. And then we come to the formation of squads in the educational system. Thank you. So the matrix and the previous course of the students were the key inputs for the formation of squads we took for our first research. So we formed a squad of 8 members, and we had around 5 squads for the control group. Each squad had minimum of 1 enablers, and the rest were doers. From an implementation part, we went to the school to give an overview on what we intend to do, and had to get the buy-in from the management, teachers, and especially the students, particularly. Once the approval was obtained, so a social contract was developed and agreed upon with the team on how we would connect, what is expected out of the team, and what would be the governance structure that was agreed upon. One of the challenge here was with the students, interestingly. So it is about, so if you see, the first bench would have formed a group, the middle bench would have formed a group, and the last bench have formed a group. And there are resistance from the students to interact with when we form the squads. So it is a combination of all the 3, like we form a World Cup cricket team where you have 3 batsmen, 3 bowler, 1 wicket keeper batsman, and 3 all-rounders kind of stuff. So people were not initially so happy, and the buy-in was challenging. And then we really have to get on with the nurturing parent within us to explain them why we are doing this exercise and how it might benefit them in the short term and in the long term. And then gradually that mindset behavior change started happening. So whenever I hear about this word mindset behavioral change, so as Sunitha rightly pointed out, it has to be started at a very earlier stage, so that they have this tendency and flexibility to get into this mindset behavioral change. So that's one of the key learning that we had. And there are a lot of other challenges, the results and the conclusion part. So to throw some light on the same, I would pass on the baton back to Sunitha. Thank you very much. And over to you, Sunitha.
Thank you, Sreeanand. So when we look at the challenges, while we were researching for this paper, we found that there were more papers on psychology separately and Agile separately, but both together was not available. So the psychoagilical involving psychological aspects coupled with Agile was first of its kind, and we had to pave our way through this. So, and if you also look at it, the personality adaptation is a huge ocean on its own, and bringing down few aspects to the scope of this paper was also challenging. The second challenge was, the third challenge was identifying school and talking to them into it, because most of the schools were only concerned about the marks and pass percentages, because that's how they've been for the past almost a decade. Then we had to talk to the parents to agreeing, to take their wards to be part of the research, because again, the so-called marks part of it was a huge challenge. The mindset had to be changed. Then came the part of keeping the children motivated, because bringing them back to the mindset of sharing and helping the team was a challenge, because they have been only focusing on their self for so many years. If you actually look at it rather from birth, if they have been single children. If we move on to the results, the chart below is the distribution of 6 personality adaptations in a controlled group. And it was quite interesting to see that a major chunk, that is more than 50%, were playful resistors and enthusiastic overreactors who were doers. So the enablers were 19%, which actually made our life easy to form the squads, because we wanted to have only one enabler and more doers. So the concept of doers and enablers are interchangeable, like mentioned by Sri, as per the situation. So as situational leadership emerges, newer individual will be assuming new roles of leaders. The doers may have to take the coordination and the leading roles as well. So many a time in most of the organizations in a project, we may see there is a change of roles during the process of evolution. The planner may not foresee all contingencies, but at those instances, emerging leaders take on the role as doers. So if I may take an example from cricket, at time it may not be the captain who will be leading, but one of the player who usually does the enabler role. He may be the wicket keeper motivating the bowler and guiding him to take wickets, or the man at the mid-on position guiding the bowler to bowl at the correct delivery. They all become enablers at that time. Moreover, when you're joining a new group, you may be a doer where you would have been an enabler in your previous assignment. So therefore, there is a balance which is needed to groom the children to learn both the roles, seamlessly transit from one to the other if they have to grow into multicultural and multiple roles. So this example further reconfirms that the concept of shifting an ego state based on the situation also takes place. So the next slide talks about the comparison of the pre and post experiment, the marks. What we did initially was we took the average marks of the students before forming the squad, and then we also took the average marks of the students after forming the squad. So the initial split of the toppers and average performers and below average performers was around 23, 48, and 30 respectively, where we saw a 7% increase in the overall scores of the team. The below average performers moved as average performers and average moved as toppers, Though from a percentage point of view, if you look at it, the average performers have remained the same, but the improvement has been seen in the toppers and the below average performers. So in this slide, we have statistically validated the pre and post results. If you see, the p-value is more than 0.05, it's around 3 point something. So hence our hypothesis of the status quo was rejected, and our null hypothesis of squad formation having a significant impact on their performance was accepted. So now moving on to the conclusion. To further prove that the squads had significant impact on the results of the students, we conducted a small challenge by giving similar tasks to the control group and the regular group of students. So it was observed that in the controlled group, conflict of interest was managed better. Enablers were able to motivate themselves as well as influence the doers. As a group, had developed mutual trust, confidence, respect for each other. So this was not found in the case of a normal group, where the focus was more on individuals. So the result of this experimental research is a comprehensive model called Psychoagilical, which we plan to copyright and trademark. So this term is unique, and it's a combination of psychology in the form of personality adaptations and ego states, and the agile in the form of enablers, doers, and squads. So this model would be beneficial for parents, students, and educational institutions, where the students nurture each other, coexist, co-create, and emerge as future leaders. And addition to this, maybe that the students could be, awarded extra points for coaching their peers from enablers perspective, and for doers for improving their performance. This would be a motivating factor and could be a cadence mechanism as well. So the wider aspect of personality adaptation, which can be coupled with agile framework, is really vast and deep. And so a deep dive could lead to future research papers as well. So before we take on to the questions, we would like to extend our gratitude to few people. So over to you, Sri.
Thank you very much, Sunitha. So yeah, see, there was a situation. White paper was a taboo, so we are afraid to write white papers, and it is like only the studious guys can do that. So you need to have a lot of knowledge. Of course, you need to have a lot of knowledge for sure. I don't say anything. So when such things are going on, so there was one person, Dr. C. Selvan, our Deputy Vice President, Service Center India, Renaissance Technology Business Center, is currently working there. So he always pushes us, guys, you have to think beyond, and whatever ideas we have, he has to say that you have to put it as a paper, you have to patent this. And we really didn't have a clue where to start from. So after this, over the coffee discussion with Sunitha, when we started with this, we wanted to write a white paper. We don't know where to start, how to start. And as they always say, when the student is ready, the master appears. That's when Padma called us and spoke to us about this conference. So it was a fact of scenario like where we want to be a part of the admin team, and also we want to do the white paper. And then she motivated us to write the white paper. So special thanks to Padma and Selvan, who sowed the seed. So our profound thanks to him. And our guide and pillars of support that's coming from the family and very good friend of mine and our kith and kin, Mr. Kishore Kumar Bhatt, Colonel R. Satyanarayanan, and Mr. Praveen Chandran. So whatever we do, so they do appreciate us, they do correct us, they do provide their valuable inputs, and my sincere thanks to all the three of them. What is Sunitha?
Thank you, Sri. And again, I would like to extend our thanks to the chairperson, Professor Dr. Vanati Balasubramanian, our discussant, Mr. Anbu Joseph, without whom we wouldn't have progressed this far, and the entire conference team. You all have become an extended family for us in this journey. So thank you so much.
So the humble starts with the ERA team, and we follow humble big time Shruti. So I think you would be so happy with that. So it's like, see, that has always been a healthy discussion. There was no competition between the team, and we were supporting each other's thoughts, each other's ideas, appreciate honestly the ideas, and we are trying to help each other. So I wish we continue this forum into ERA Conference 2021 and so on, and see how we can bring in more thoughts and ideas, and bring in more papers, bring in more people into this. So now we have reached the finish line. That's a happy, relaxed state that we do have. Thank you, each and every one of you. Thank you very much. Over to you.
So we have listed the references. Now we are open for questions.
Awesome. This was so good. It just filled my heart. I just want to say that. This was so.
Thank you, Shruti.
Seriously, very good concept and very good presentation.
Yeah, it's a very deep thinking has gone into it, and I'm actually surprised how they completed this in 4 to 5 months.
Actually, Nagini, we started it sometime back. I mean, the concept and everything was developed really, much earlier. We were just waiting to test it somewhere, and only the test phase happened in 4 to 5 months. But the concept happened way before in 2019 itself. So the idea was already there. We were just trying to find out, put things in place and, start developing that. So
ERA is where you hit the sixer with the topic, right?
Great work. I have to say, appreciate even the difference between the other research papers and this is evident because of the background you have got from Vanati, and it is evident, like, she has structured it in such a way it is ready for an academic kind of a presentation as well. I have to appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Yeah. So Shruti,
yeah,
if we can go with the questions already posted and then yours, it should be fine with you.
Sure. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Nashat, you want to ask your question or shall I read it?
Thanks, Anbu. So my question was, and first of all, brilliant. It's just brilliant. I don't have any other words. Touches the hearts. It's emotionally right, and it's so brilliant. And my question is, we see in a lot of other countries, social contribution to the society is embedded in their curriculum. It's formally embedded in their curriculum. In fact, it is one of the criterias to enter into higher education. But India has not been following, or I don't see any, except a few international schools, I don't see this culture. So during your research, have you been able to understand as to why we are lagging behind with respect to this? Can you throw some light on that, please?
Okay, like I had already said, it's actually a mindset change wherein the parents see. If you look at it, when we were kids and we were studying NASA, getting a 75% was like, or 80% was like, wow, you've got a distinction. You are like, really good and all that. But now the competition has increased. So who is responsible for the competition? We as parents, because we keep pushing the limit. We keep pushing, a lot of things saying that you cannot get anything below a specific mark. 99% is also not enough. Okay, so it is all, I think it is the societal pressure. It's the way the education system itself is developed, is designed. So probably fundamentally we need to make a complete shift in the entire system itself. So somewhere we have to start. There are a few schools, like, when we were discussing about this, Padma did mention that, there is a school where her children study in that school where fundamental things are re-emphasized. And the other day we were talking to an advocate friend of mine, and in their son's school, there are no exams till 8th standard. But as parents, do we look for that? If a school is not giving homework during a holiday, there are 10 different people who keep saying that, why have you not given any homework? Can you give any holiday homework? So it is more like parents have become busy with their work. They want the children to just keep studying or do, keep them engaged. To keep them engaged, it's better to learn, to keep studying. And the competition also has come up. So it is a combination of all the factors. There is a lot of societal pressure as well.
And
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And to add on to what Sunitha has been saying and answering Nazar's question, I'll start with a real-time scenario, Nazar. So initially when I started about Agile in my organization, there have been huge resistance to that. So what I did was that, so I formed a small team where we started working Agile, and then with results, we then approached the management. And the moment they started seeing the results, they became greedy. So what I could see is that we have to be the change what we want to have in life. So in this scenario, for example, so whomsoever is there in this conference, so we have to take a pledge how we can replicate this concept, how we can start it from us. So once we start doing it, yeah, from the moment we take a decision till we get a result, there would be enormous amount of pressure from our own kith and kin, from our spouses, from our own family. Okay, when we resist all those pressure and we see the results, automatically more people will come into the system. So that is how we can bring about this mindset behavioral change. Because tomorrow I'm just going to take this paper, getting into the government office, asking them, come on, I have an excellent idea. They will throw it to the dustbin. So I know the ground reality. Of course, everyone knows it here. So let us bring about the change in us. Let us bring about the value system with our own kids. Okay, worst case, what will happen is that at least our kids will follow this, and our kids will not get into the rat race. So they would be good citizens, good human beings, immediately of at work or in their personal life, they can come up successfully. And this is one aspect of it. Of course, we need to have people like Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So we are big fan of him. So let us see.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. So who could take this idea to the next levels? It might not be here. Say, for example, the CM in Andhra or Telangana, he is doing a great job. So can we take it to them? Can we write to the PM cell? Let us knock the doors till we get results for this. Okay. That's a pledge what I have taken. So in whatever way I can nurture the kids, I personally mentor kids. Okay, it's my passion. I don't do it for money. So like this, how do we do that? How do we bring a strong society of youngsters? That is the best thing that we can give it to the next generation. Okay, so I think I have answered your question, Nazar, over here.
Hey, I have a thought from what you have expressed here, Anand. See,
Yeah.
we have seen yesterday, Kiran has given us that framework of, how do you take an idea or product agility. He was the last one he was having is a mic where he was saying you have to get it into the people's mind. So I think you have to start recording the videos before and after these control groups are formed about the same children.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to make it like a small video, and you have to start playing it wherever you want to go and show it, instead of reading through your paper and going through your 20 slides or 16 slides.
Excellent.
That one video has to talk what you are going to do.
Yeah. And also we could take it up to the government schools, because the buy-in from the government schools would be much easier and better, and the schools from down south could be much better. So we have to explore this. Probably that it myself could be a white paper on its own. Who knows?
See, what I would say is I have worked on these kind of scenarios with some of the government schools.
Okay.
And what we have done is, one influential person who has to see your video, you have to identify. And then you have to get this. See, I'm giving you one live example, which we have done in the PMI India Hyderabad chapter. Okay. What we did is we wanted to do this project management in schools for children before they cross their 10th standard. So what we did is student leadership building. We have completed that as a one curriculum, and we have presented it to the then governor of Andhra Pradesh, who was Rosaya.
Okay.
Actually, he was impressed with this kind of a video and the presentation and the model we have created. he just went ahead and got a government order that this has to be implemented as a vocational course in schools, all the government primary and secondary schools. You know what happened? 3 years until the government changed and the bifurcation of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh happened. This government rule order has been done for every year.
Wonderful.
So I'm just giving you one clue. That is how you have to find out who is the best person to impress and get all your armor. Just go 5 minutes they'll give you. You have to impress them.
Yeah.
Elevators pitch, that
It's a must.
simple video, and then what you want to achieve.
Sure.
If they are impressed, then you are there everywhere.
Thanks
But all
a lot.
the best.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Surely we'll make an attempt.
Thanks, Nagini.
Yeah, we are open for ideas, and let's ensure that we don't want to stop this just with a white paper. We want the entire nation to get benefited with this, or even other countries. So we are just trying to see how we could replicate this. With all your thoughts, with our best efforts and God's grace, we should be in a position to do this.
Sreeanand and Sunitha, if you obviously, I'm sure you're planning this on large scale. At some
Yeah, we are
time
all
in
ready.
future. Yeah, so I would love to join your team. Whatever best that I can do for the kids along with you, it would be my pleasure and honor.
Be
And
rest
one
assured,
more.
Nasir, this will be the first team we will reach out to because, like I said, this has become more like an extended family. So you guys will be the first one to reach out.
Hey, Sunitha and Anand, one more small tip is, first disclaimer has to be no money is involved.
Yeah, that's true.
Because until and unless government sees that, they won't even entertain your 5 minutes of speech. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for all the questions. I think we are 5:25, so we'll go with the second paper.
And can you accommodate one more question which was on there?
Yeah.
We have time.
Shruti was wanted to ask some question. Yeah, Shruti, please.
Firstly, like Nagini said, I was making notes while you were presenting, and my first was in a box I've written trailer, because kids are the most amazing things people want to watch on video. And if there is anything that is changing in the kids, that is definitely something that needs to have a trailer. Like Nagini said, I've worked with 10 schools 2 years ago to I'm an electronics engineer, but we learn electronics only after the pursuable BTech degree, right? But kids don't learn that. So I created a curriculum for electronics for 3 grades for a school and work with 10 schools in Secunderabad. So I have a similar experience that Nagini said, of course, not so large scale, but trailer is something that I wrote that will be amazing if you can make that the difference between the kids. My question is, you mentioned the child ego state. Maybe it's my lack of knowledge in the thing, but I want you to clarify this, please. Is there a study that shows the pros and cons of the child ego state having some sort of future? So if the ego state is at this level, then the future could be like, is there a possibility to identify the future state for a high child ego state? Does that question make sense?
Okay, I would answer your question in a different way, Shruti.
Yeah.
So as I said, so probably from the mythology how Abhimanyu learned the Chakravyuha, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So like this, what happens is that, so that is the reason they always say that the pregnant mother has to be pretty peaceful. She has whatever she does in that 8-9 months is the starting point what the kid has. And then the learning for the kid starts from 0 till the age of 7, approximately. I'm not telling the exact age, approximately. So it tries to see and perceive the environment and forms its own belief system. Okay. So for example, a guy with a beard is pinching that kid always. So when the child turns 25 or 30, for no reason, it will get irritated on seeing a person having a beard. It really doesn't have a clue about that. Okay. So I have seen such cases when people come for therapy to me. So how we are going to incorporate this? The parenting plays an excellent role, and then the kindergarten teachers plays a wonderful role in bringing up these children. So the confidence of the children could be made or break at that point of time. So instead of prediction model kind of thing, what I would suggest is that, so that parenting has to happen. So for example, I do premarital counseling and postmarital counseling. And when I do this, I touch upon the topics about parenting. So people have to be mentally prepared to have a kid. And say, for example, if it's an illegitimate kid, so the kid might not be wanted during the pregnancy period. So the kid has suicidal tendencies. The kid might be like, I'm not wanted. It will have a very strong belief system. I'm not wanted by the society. So any amount of love and affection given to the kid will reject that at the age of 5, at the age of 10, 15, 20, and 25. So this pattern has to be broken. And it will become very difficult when they come for therapy, because you have to backtrack all the traces, you have to erase that, and you have to reparent that kid. That's a challenging thing. So in my eyes, the parents and the teachers play an excellent role in bringing up the future of the kid.
No, I completely agree with that. I agree with that. I'm sorry, I don't want to take much time, but just one more quick question is, kids have high resilience taken for granted. We all know that they're very strong, they're very determined. However, when we talk about enablers, the kids being enablers, they can be undermined when they are being an enabler as well. They might not see value in it. So I think one of the challenges that you saw was also motivation. So how do you motivate an enabler to continue to be an enabler in the future? So they might have to be a doer at times, they might have to switch back, but how do you encourage them enough to switch back to be an enabler?
Wonderful point. See, sometimes, as you rightly said, they try to shut off the child ego state, and they become into the parent and adult ego state alone. So, for example, if there is going to be a single mother or a disjoint family, what happens is that the elder brother takes the role of a parent at the age of 7 itself. Okay, so he becomes an enabler. So he also have child needs? Are these child needs getting met? Probably you will never see that. Okay, so you need to ensure that it's okay to be enablers. Sometimes I will go to the back seat. I will also be the doer. Okay, I can relax myself. I just will take care of my child needs. For example, see, for if I take me as an example, so sometimes I go back to my child ego state. When it rains, I just go drenched. I have fun. I do everything. So I'm ensuring that my free child is alive. So we also need to ensure that everyone's free child is alive. So when you are stressed, do 3 things. What you have done as a child that gives you happiness. It could be eating an ice cream. Okay, you don't need to be so well mannered to eat an ice cream, having a tissue paper, touching this. You don't need to do that. It's okay to lick your fingers. Okay.
No, I think that's something that we understand in today's day and age. But if it's a 7-year-old child, how do you motivate that child to be an enabler?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That point. See, that point is that, see, on one hand, we are talking about. Of course, we're not talking about a 7-year-old child. So this experiment was done in the middle school. It's around 11, 12 years.
11, 12. Yeah.
11, 12 years. So it's a value system that we say them. It's a value system we say them. It's okay to share. It's okay to care. That small act of kindness really helps you. So that wow moment, they feel it.
Yeah.
And as an individual, how I do that is that I lead by example. It is not like I'm saying something, Shruti, you have to do this, and I follow something else.
Yeah.
Okay. I do it. I have that wow moment. My children does it. They have that wow moment. I share it to you people. You do it. And then mostly the children doesn't learn anything from outside. They learn from their parents. The verbatim what we use, our body language what we use, the way we stare, the way we abuse people when we are driving. Okay. So we are the primary responsible for the children to learn. So for example, I used to cry. Okay, it's okay to cry, because some families, they say that men don't cry. Okay, that is how they always stay as enablers. They don't do us.
Those are biases.
Exactly. So you need to break each and every such point so that they become so natural in their life.
Yeah, so I think Albert Einstein had said that if people are good only because they fear punishment or they hope for a reward, then we are a sorry lot of humans indeed.
Exactly.
So I think apart from those two things, if we can have anything that is a motivator for a child, then nothing like it. I think it's pure gold. But amazing paper. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a
Shruti, can
lot.
I add a few words with whatever Sriram has told? I am Colonel Satyanarayanan.
Thank you for joining.
Hi.
Thank you for joining, Satya.
I had been interacting with around 800 to 900 participants. We don't call them as a student when I was posted in a College of Defense Management. What we have seen is the student ego state is not only what impact you get in the childhood, but during the growing up stage also, when you see the easy way out of a problem by throwing tantrums.
Right.
So the many bosses you would have come across who would have had similar type of things. When they have to go get a job done, they may throw tantrums. So they are still in the child ego state. So in the transaction way of getting a work done, people keep transiting from parent to adult to child ego.
Yeah.
That's one. Second thing, what you are talking about was how to get this younger children to become enablers. The family system or the way we bring up kids as on days are mainly focused upon negative feedback loops. Whenever a child is trying to do anything, what you do is tell no.
Yeah.
So you kill the initiative of the child when it's in the childhood itself. So it's afraid to experiment or do something. Until and unless it is going to cause harm to the child or somebody, you should allow the child to learn by its experiment.
Yeah.
And don't worry about the result, because nobody is perfect. A child will start learning, because when a child starts painting red color to a tree, we tell no, this should be green. So the imagination is killed then and there itself. So allow them. Regarding my comments which I have put, we used to have a system of a ecological club in our college, wherein we used to get the children together for the weekends, and we used to teach them about ecology as well as other things. So one of the thing we had was a traffic constable from Hyderabad. Police was allowed to come and give a lecture on following the rules, and we formed these groups of children and allowed them to create their own 2 minutes say drama type, skit type of things, and they came with fantastic ideas. These groups were not controlled at all. One parent each was just assigned so that he can just refine, but the ideas belong to the student. So we came to know how many enablers are there within the group itself. So it is an opportunity which we have to create to children and allow them to grow. If we are able to do that, then we'll have people of more enablers, which India wants as of now. Otherwise, the formal education system is more of doers. That's why we are lagging behind in most of the fields.
I completely agree. I completely agree with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words. It's really realistic. I have heard that why we are always consuming the products from outside, why we are not creating rather than working for those products, right? That's the state. Now we are in the take a next level of many product developments here in India. Very nice. Thank you for your words. Can you please proceed, Anbu?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for your interactions and questions and answers.